Hey, welcome. Sorry about the delay there, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Today we are going to be doing a fun bit of coding. There is a project that I wanted to do that is a programming exercise that I enjoy working on. It's one I've done before, and I'm hoping that a number of you have seen it also. What this one is it's called the Gilded Rose Refactoring Kata. We're going to be taking a look at that today, and it is essentially a kata where and I use that kata word lightly because I really mean programming exercise here, where the goal is to take some existing code and change it. So what we're going to change about this is we're going to add a new feature to it, and our goal in adding this new feature is to not break anything that's there and not touch some certain other parts of our code. So what we are going to work on is I'm going to pull up some instructions because the instructions for this are important. So these are the instructions that we get for the Gilded Rose Refactoring Kata. So hi and welcome to Team Gilded Rose. As you know, we're a small inn with a prime location in a prominent city run by a friendly innkeeper named Allison. So for those of you that don't know, this is referencing World of Warcraft. Don't worry about that though. We also buy and sell only the finest goods. Unfortunately, our goods are constantly degrading in quality as they approach their sell-by date. We have a system in place that updates our inventory for us. It was developed by a no-nonsense type named Leroy. So our thing here is first our set of instructions. I'm going to keep reading these in a sec. I'm going to switch my microphone from the one I'm using here down to one that's down here. So give me 1 second. Hey, all right. So that is a little better. So what we're doing is we are going to continue on with this. So all the items in the system have a sell-in value, and that is the amount of time before we need to sell it. So think of that like a sell-by date, except instead of being a future date, it's the number of days remaining. They have a quality, and that's going to denote how valuable an item is. And then at the end of each day, the system goes through and it updates the values on all of the items in the system. So we're going to reduce the sell-in value and we're going to reduce the quality. So once the sell-by date has passed, the quality is going to degrade twice as fast. So we're beyond the point where this is the normal time when someone should be buying this item. So we're going to let that value degrade. The quality of an item is never going to be negative. And there's a special item called Age Debris, and it increases in quality as it gets older. So unlike all the other items, it goes up. The quality of an item is never more than 50. And there's a special item called Sulfurous, and being a legendary item, it never has to be sold, and as such, it also never decreases in quality. So it has no time that we need to sell it by before it starts degrading. There's also an item called a Backstage Pass, and similarly to Age Debris, it is going to increase in value over time. So as we get closer to the date of the event that it's a Backstage Pass for, the value goes up, but then once we reach that sell-in value, once we reach that sell-in date, the sell-by date, and our sell-in value gets 0, it's going to drop to 0 because the Backstage Pass is no longer valuable once we reach that date. Additionally, the quality is going to increase faster as we get closer to the date. So essentially, the Backstage Pass starts at some value, it goes up and up and up, and then we get close to the event, it starts going up even more, and then we get closer to the event and it starts going up even more. Once we reach the date that the event is, that it's a Backstage Pass for, the quality drops down immediately to 0 because, well, Backstage Pass for an event that already happened. So this is the description of what our current state is in this code. Now trust me, you don't want to see this code, but we're going to take a look at it anyway because that's part of this exercise. So someone wants us to add a new feature to this system. So we're going to have conjured items now because someone decided, hey, we should start selling these conjured items. So a conjured item
being, just conjured, it's not a normal creation, is going to degrade twice as fast as a normal item. So you'll notice nothing in the system right now degrades at twice normal speed. So this is a new concept that we're going to have to add. So we're allowed to make changes to the update quality method that we're going to see in a moment, and we can add in any new code as long as everything still works correctly. So that means we need to maintain all those existing rules that were up above, and we're not allowed to alter the item class or the item property, as there's someone else who controls those. So we have to keep those in existence. And let's see, I can make the update quality method and item property static. No, cover for me. And just as a note of clarification, an item can never have its quality increase above 50. However, sulfurous is a legendary item, and as such, its quality is 80 and it never alters. Okay, so that limit only applies apparently to the items that are changing values, but not to the legendary item that could be outside of the bounds of the 0 to 50 range that we've been told about already. Okay, so those are our instructions. I'm going to pull them off the screen. This is our starting code. We have a basic console application here, and it is a C# application. We have a program CS file, and it looks like our code is right in here inside of this class. That is some ugly code, huh? Okay, so the first thing I notice, we're inside of a static main in our program CS doing a good amount of work, and then our update quality method is right here on our program. So what were our exact instructions that we were given? We were told to make any changes to update quality, do not alter the item class or property. Okay. So I am assuming, so items is right there. We have to leave that alone. And we have to leave this alone. Now I'm going to work under the assumption that I can move the items class itself into another file, but I won't make any alterations to it. If I'm not supposed to, I'm not worried about it. I could leave it here and move everything else out, but I'm going to assume that I'm allowed to. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. We'll leave it here. So the first thing I notice is I want to somehow get a test on this before I do anything else. But I'm not sure I'm going to be able to because of where it is, or at least I'm not sure I'm going to like my tests if I do. So first things first, I want to go ahead and get a unit test project going. I'm just going to call it unit test for now. I know it's kind of a crummy name. Normally I would add default namespace changes and things like that just to make it a little better. But we're inside of a kata, so I'm not going to waste my time on configuration. I'm more here to practice the coding, not the configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and build. We're going to see what we get. Should pull in all of my NuGet packages in a restore and get things running. So let's make this first unit test just be where we make sure everything's even running at all. So success. Okay, so our do nothing test works fine. So the first thing that we can test, let's take a look. So I want to test update quality in some way. Looks like update quality runs off of program, which is monstrous. So I guess I'm getting a new instance of program. Joy. My unit test project is going to reference that, and new program. No, not from that one, guys. Ooh, I'm gonna have to make that class public or allow access to the internals of this class. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna actually start with a refactoring, a fairly safe one. I am going to make my no name yet class, because I need to figure out what that thing is going to be. I don't even want to think about it yet, but I'm going to make that. So I'm going to make one of these. So I have my no name yet. And in my no name yet, I want to put the update quality method, I think, because that's really what I'm testing. Now I think I can pretty safely move this. So I just copied for now, and I'm going to put it down there. So it needs access to items. Now I'm going to cheat slightly for this. So I don't know whether it wants me to be able to move this off of here or not, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this on program, assuming that what it meant when it said don't touch this is leave it in program. So I am going to reference that same collection, and I believe this will reference that collection. So I've now brought this in, and we are modifying the items in here. So at this point, I'm pretty sure it's doing what I think it's doing, but we'll find out. I'm gonna leave this one alone. So I'm working with source control here, so I'm fairly okay. So I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm going to pass in the items collection. Static main items. I can make this static. He said I was allowed to. He said he'd cover for me there. And then my next change. Yes, I know this is a pretty significant first change. I don't like it either. But I don't have much other option because I can't really test it as is. So that's about all the adjustments I'm going to get right there, is changing this. So that ought to get us started right there. I don't need to have those curlies. Those are worthless. And then we're calling that, and read key as our escape. Okay, so what is this thing? So all I really did here for the most part was just move objects around. This should be referencing the same collection that I'm using here. So I should just be modifying those items in that collection, and by reference they change. I see nothing in here that accesses anything but those values based on an index and checking the count at this spot. So that means that these passed by reference objects should be fine to change. This is just a declaration of those things. I'm going to go ahead and run this, make sure it works as expected. I should have done this at the beginning. Okay, so it ran. I apologize, it opened on another screen. All it did was say hi and then wait for me to press a key. I think the assumption with this code is that this is some kind of special data store. We'll pretend that it is for now. Like, obviously, this just being sample code, that's not really getting modified. But we'll pretend that these values get stored somewhere instead of just in memory. Anyway, so now that I've got that in here, I want to do my first commit of this code. So what I am going to do is open up git bash at this point. So I'm in here. Things build. I have unit test 1. Things don't build because I left this like this. We're going to update quality, passing in a new list of item. That'll be empty. And then this is going to be update quality should. Run without error given empty collection. So I want to start with the simplest case here, which is that we just have an empty collection, no big deal. And just doesn't throw an error. I think that's probably good enough for our initial test. I know it doesn't really do anything, it doesn't really matter, but okay. So that seems like a decent starting point. I'm going to go ahead and build that just to confirm that it can, and then okay, we're going to add that. And I can't type sometimes. You know what? Let's get up here. Okay, so we have modified program, modified the solution, modified the CS proj, modified the CS. Thanks. Anyway. So I'm going to call that extracting to testable state. I don't know if it actually works right now, really. We've run it once, but I'm not super confident. Either way, it's something to look at. So let's see what we can do with it. So next step is going to be fixing this name for what this thing is. What is this? This is like the item quality updater, the item state manager, the item something or other. The item store I don't know, it's like a maintenance, it's applying changes, it's the inventory updater. Inventory status updater. Not huge on it, but it's not the worst thing I've ever read. Inventory status updater dot update quality. Okay. It's not terrible. Update quality should. Inventory. Okay, so this is the inventory status updater, which actually I'm going to use a shorter one, status updater. That looks fine to me. What did I get? Program, update quality should. So this is renaming okay, so we're renaming to that, and then the next thing that we want to do, which again is not really much of a change at all, I want to put this unit test in a folder. We are going to call this the inventory status updater tests. And we're going to plop that in there. Okay. Update the namespace accordingly. And that should get everything renamed that to that. Yep, good job. Okay. So now we want to make some other basic changes. So the first one I want to do is getting this into its own file, because I don't like it being here. I was working under the assumption that I cannot move items into its own file, but I'm okay with that, and I have to leave it here. I'm okay with that also. So this basically isn't getting much nicer than it is today. My assumption, so this is an exercise, I am going to assume that this code here is, say, loading in from a database, and there's an imaginary method here that saves into one. We'll pretend. Again, why is that in the program? Well, yeah, don't worry about it. Okay, so the next thing that we need to look at is making sure that some of this basic stuff works. So we said run without error, right? We didn't really test anything. Let's make sure that some of these assumptions we have work the way that we think they do. So update quality should lower quality given normal item. Right? Update quality should lower quality given normal item. So I'm going to take this piece. I am going to create a new item in here. On my item, I am going to give it a name. Normal. Going to give it a quality of, say, 20. And a sell-in of 10. So this should, because sell-in should be fine the way it is, given my understanding of how this works. And this really is our testing of this. I need to get a reference to that. We won't get those items if we don't have a reference. So we're going to say normal item items equals, so normal item dot, we said it should lower the quality, should equal normal item quality minus 1. So we're expecting that after this runs, that quality got lowered by 1. Yeah, I know I'm referencing the same thing for it, but it's nice because it confirmed that it really did change it for that type. Ooh, my test fails. Why did my test fail? Lowered by 2. Normal, normal. Did I misread? Maybe I misread. Let's see. All items have equalities. The quality of items never. Quality of items. Maybe they just lower by 2. Maybe I guessed wrong. Well, you know what we can do to confirm this? So I did something that I shouldn't have done. Let's make a feature stream. So I'm going feature branch. I'm going to call this conjured items. So I'm going to make a new branch, put it over on there. I'm going to nuke my master branch. Everybody freaked out yet? Good. Hey, welcome. Thanks for following. Let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and add all these. This is our current working state where we are adding initial assumption tests. So I'm going to jump back over to my master branch here for a second, and I'm going to tell it, yes, you can go ahead and reload everything. Really? Didn't get rid of that? Should have. Thought it should have. Okay. Everything should be back to the initial state. Huh. Neat. Anyway, let's go ahead and build this with the initial thing. But I want to find out what happened right after this. What? Oh. Didn't even reference that at the top. Thanks, guys. Right line. What do we want to say? We want to print out some value here and see what it is. So items. Let's grab the first item and check its quality. So that's going to be app.items. App.items 0 quality. So it started at 20. We're expecting it to be 18 or 19, depending on whether it reduced by 1 or 2. 19. Okay, reduced by 1. Sell-in was 10. Quality was 20. Okay. Huh. That's weird. Okay. Yep, we're gonna go ahead and tell it can reload everything. Why aren't you reloading? Like the project file's not reloading. It won't let go of it. One sec while I mess with this. Okay, and we're back. So now that that should be working the way we expect it to, let's go ahead and build and run that again. So, let's see. If I run this, I want this to be 19, but it ends up as 18. Expected 19 was 18. I'm going to have to debug that. I wonder if I messed something up. I might have broken something. I mean, did a small amount of refactoring, but didn't think I did enough to actually break that. So we'll see. Okay. So this should have value 20. And then we come in here. I want to confirm that that is the correct value. Okay, that's normal. So that's what we wanted. And that means we're working with the right one. So as long as we don't go through the loop again, so in order to avoid that, I'm going to put that there. Quality is greater than 0, and it's not that, so we're going to subtract by 1. We're going to go ahead and put watches on those. Let's just see if there's any point where that value lowers again. So the item is not that, and so we're lowering it. Oh, so we're lowering it here. Why did we lower on the other one? It's not aged brie. It's not a backstage pass. Quality is greater than 0, so it lowered by 1. It wasn't that. Oh, that's reducing the sell-in date. Yeah, duh. And sell-in date less than 0, it's not. So we complete. Oh! Yes, sometimes we do stupid things. I didn't point in time this value. So this is the expected result. Int. So this is not actual, this is expected. This is the expected quality. Then I'm going to move right up here. So I need to grab that before I make the modification because, you know, reasons. So that should work now. Because obviously I was checking a value that had changed. So I need to get an int. So because int is a value type, I'm going to have a separate instance of that. Everything works fine. Because I could have put the raw value 19 in here, and then that would have been totally okay. And then obviously, did they have those flipped? Did they flip those on me? Is this where are they putting expected and actual? Yeah, right. No, I did that backward. Expected, actual. Yeah, I'm smoking. I'm just crazy here. So there we go. Now this should break, and it should tell me expected 18, actual 19. Good. So actual 19. Now that should work fine. Let's, commit my test fix. What did I commit? Just the change to this file. Okay. I should say, what did I stage? And so now I want to I probably could have amended that, just not looked like an idiot, but that's fine. I don't care. Reality, we make mistakes. So this code is going to get nasty pretty soon. So lower quality given normal item should lower sell-in given a normal item. So that should go down to 9 for the sell-in. Let's go ahead and run these. Okay, all tests are green, so that's what I expect. Okay, so I'm kind of sitting here thinking, and I might want this to just be for normal items, but I'm going to keep going for now. These tests have pretty much the same stuff going for them. So what we can do so these are just the normal item tests. Normal items seem to do what we expect. Let's go ahead and add another given normal item. Maintain quality. We don't want to lower below 0, so we want to call this something. So this should, I'll say floor quality at 0. Can't ever go below 0. So quality, we'll have it at 1. I'm going to call our method twice. Actually, I want to put a gap between those so that there's good separation between actually running that and that working. So that's part of the setup then at this point. So that is our setup for a test. That's running the test. This time we're going to run it twice. So run it twice. We're expecting the quality to be 0. Okay, it is. So we can't drop below 0. That's good. It should floor the sell-in at 0 also. So the sell-in should be 0, even though we ran it twice and the sell-in was only supposed to be 1 date, so ooh, a failure. Why did we fail? Oh, actually, do we not? Let me read those instructions. Maybe we don't floor at 0. Let's take a look. So when we look at this code, let's see, we want to look just at the sell-in values. Denotes number of days. Looks like we're allowed to go negative. Okay. I did the test wrong. See? Find things out about the system. Okay, so we're going to allow negatives, because that's what it does today. Okay, so the next thing, so I also mentioned about normal items that when an item reached, so once the sell-by date has passed, quality degrades twice as fast. Okay, so what that means is if we do pretty much the same test as this one, we should say decrease quality twice as fast given past after passing cell in reaches 0. I think I like that name. So in this one, we're going to hit 0. I'm actually going to run this 3 times. So the first time should decrease by 1, and then -2, -2. So if I check the quality of this, we're expecting, we started at 50, we should end up at 45. Okay, so after cell n reaches 0. So I am noticing something here that I want to adjust. I have this given normal items. I want to put that up there for now. I kind of like that name. I'm handling just normal items. Just doing a rename here, and then I'm going to rerun all these tests and commit. Rerunning the tests, and they all pass. I'm going to go ahead and commit this change. Should just be that one file, yep. And I'm going to do the file rename as a separate commit, just because I like for it to know that it's a rename. Git commit adding normal item des. Now I'm going to do the file rename. Might flip this. I think I'm going to flip it. So I'm going to say given normal items, update quality should rename file to match the type. Git add git status, and we're going to say changed test to fixture to use okay. So now we've got that in there. Next thing that we want to do, so I noticed that I had a given normal items at the beginning of every one of these test methods. The next thing that I want to change is getting it so that the that we have a little bit of reuse here. So those of you that aren't familiar with XUnit, you'll notice that there is not a setup that we're used to having in say NUnit or something like that. So it doesn't have that same concept as far as I know. They're not big on it. The just design philosophy of this team is different. So for now, I want to get myself this object that I'm working with. So because I'm passing the items collection into the update quality, I'm just going to make this a field. So I'm going to call this private inventory status updater, and I guess I can just do it right there. This object doesn't have any state, so remove it from here. Okay, so we're saying lower quality, lower sell-in. Why don't I say by 1? Lower sell-in by 1. Floor quality at 0. Allow negative sell-in. Decrease quality. I'm going to say by 2. After sell-in reaches 0. Okay, so that makes sense to me. That we've got all those, so reach 0, so it's now at 2 and 2, because it started at 1, so this time we passed it in with a 0, and it reduced. So I'm going to run these tests again, and I'm going to go ahead and commit. And I'm going to call this cleaning up the tests, maybe? Okay, they all pass still. Okay. Okay, so we've got that going. The next thing that I want to take a look at is, so we sort of confirmed that the system works the way we expect it to. Now, I don't want to test every single circumstance of this before adding in our feature, because there's one rule that I do know about. So, okay, we have a couple of circumstances. This is a programming exercise. We can do this programming exercise in one of 2 ways. One of the ways that we can do the programming exercise is we can say, hey, we work at this company that really, really, really freaks out if we break anything. So we can't have one single issue come up. So if we say that we're working at a place like that, then that means that we want to test every single thing before we make any changes and be extremely cautious. I don't like the idea of that one. I don't think most companies work that way. So my expectation is that most companies, they want you to be fairly safe, but more than wanting you to be safe, they want you to get stuff done. So let's take the practical approach for now and assume that at some point they want us to actually go and write this thing. So the piece that we're going to write now, I want to get a couple more tests on this that check more than just the normal item state, just to make sure that something else works. Because actually, do we need to? No, I'm going to add the conjured item. We have a fairly good idea that the system does what we think it does, and that we didn't horribly break things by doing this refactoring. It still seems to function the way it's supposed to. So, what I am going to do is go ahead and make a new class in here, and I'm going to say given conjured item update quality should. Okay, so there's our test setup for that. So now I'm going to create another fact, but on this one, now I am going to steal from here, because that's what I do. And then I'm going to steal this also. Okay. So now I have all of the pieces that I expect to have for this. I need to change to a conjured item. So if I look at how the status updater detects things, it looks like it just finds them based on names. So anything ever do a prefix? Name equals, equals, name equals, name equals. Yeah, so those are all very, very specific names on all those things. I'm going to say that a conjured item just has to have the word conjured in the name, or has to start with a conjured thing. So we're going to say conjured sword, right? This is going to be a conjured item. Conjured item, items, conjured item. I only want to run update quality a single time. We're going to start the quality at 10. Actually, we're going to start the quality at 20. We're saying that for conjured items, let's just read our instructions again. For conjured items, we degrade in quality twice as fast as a normal item. So twice as fast. So that means after we run this, we should expect the quality to equal 18 after we do this. So we're saying given conjured item, update quality should reduce quality by 2. So this should not work at all. It should be 19 instead of 18. So we run that test and it fails, as we expected it to. We got our failure. Expected 18, actual was 19, because it treated this like a normal item, because the system doesn't yet know what a conjured item is. Okay, so remember, we said that it was going to be important that we don't break things. So the way that we don't break things is we're going to hop in here, and we are going to make this crappy. So step 1. If items I dot name starts with conjured. Yes, I went there. We're going to say items dot items. I really need to fix that. Quality. And I could minus equals 1. Yeah, I'm going to minus equals 1 this thing. Okay, so we're saying take the quality value, subtract 1, assign it to itself. Only for items that start with conjured. So now I can think of a couple of problems that we can run into. So the first thing is they say twice as fast as normal. And I want to get clarification on what that means. Twice as fast as normal could mean twice as fast as the normal circumstance, which means that the sell-in date is still positive. Or it could mean degrades quality twice as normal items, and a normal item will degrade twice as fast when its sell-in date has reached 0, meaning that after the sell-in date passes, we're subtracting 4, and before it, we're subtracting 2. So I think I want to go with the latter and say that that's the circumstance we're supposed to go with. So I'm going to take this little snippet of code here, and I'm going to say that this is quality is greater than 0, so we're going to do this. So I'm going to put that as a separate if in there and say, hey, if you're a conjured item, so notice we just subtracted 1, I'm going to subtract again if that's what you are. So we're never supposed to go negative. So in order to make sure that, and yes, this is, as I said, I'm going to hack this in first and then make it nicer. You know what? I'm going to let this fail to begin with, because there's already a problem that I've created, and I'm going to fix it after the fact. So we're going to put this in here, and then we're going to fix the bug. So the other time that we subtract quality, so, wait, what? Oh, whoops. There we go. Okay. So this is the other one. Sell-in date has gone negative. So the problem that we run into at this point is that our quality value can go negative because we're not safe enough with it. And actually, I wonder if we already could. So either way, that's actually a test I want to check. So I want to add this to the normal. Oh, if quality is greater than 0, then do this. Yeah. So we're going to allow ourselves to go negative, and I'll show you the circumstance where we can do that. So now when I run this, this should pass. The other one should fail, or the other, yeah, everything should pass. And the circumstance that's going to fail is when we are at just the right numbers. So 4 after selin passes. After selin reaches 0. Okay, so I'm going to set the selin to 1. And I'm going to run that 3 times again. So -2, -4, -4. So we are expecting the value of that to be 10. Okay, so that worked fine. So here is the problem. Let's go ahead and do another test. So I want to steal a test name from over here. Floor quality at 0. So quality is set to 1. Selling date will set to 10. Okay, so the selling date's 10. It's going to reduce to 9. But the quality is going to reduce by 2. And the reason is quality, we're expecting it to be 0. But what is going to happen, we're going to come in here, and we'll see it in our test in a second. We're going to get to this check. We're going to say quality is greater than 0. It is in fact going to be 1. We're going to get down here. We are going to subtract 1, and then we are going to subtract 1 again. And that is where we are going to break. So when I run this, we're going to get to -1. We're not supposed to be able to get to -1. So there are a couple of solutions to this problem. We could just put in a safety in our code and just say, hey, anytime we're at negatives, just set us back to 0. Right? We could just do that at the end of the thing. And that'd probably be fine, but that seems a little wonky. The other easy fix is to just say, and quality greater than 0 on each one of these checks. Right? So that should be fine. So that should fix our test. But it's going to break on the other one. Right? Given selin remains. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Floor quality, given selin 0. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to set the selin to 0, and then I'm going to set this value to 3. So I'm going to subtract the first, subtract the second. We get down to the bottom. We're going to say, hey, it's still 1, so apply a double, and then this is also going to be able to get us to -1 now. Now again, I know how the code works, but remember, these are just possible circumstances, and there's no penalty to having this code still here while we're in a different case. Because remember, I'm testing with the knowledge of the implementation, but I'm not hard coding in the implementation, if that distinction's clear. So I know how it works, so I can test based on how it works, because I know that there is a bug here. But having this test work just fine, whether I'm putting these ifs in here, whether I'm subtracting by 2 or 1, or it doesn't really matter, because I'm just checking that the values are what I expect them to be. So, did I keep that? Hey, I did. Cool. Good job maintaining your clipboard there, Brendan. Good job. Okay. So now we're pretty much done with this. I mean, it kind of works. Degradation goes faster when we get that. Quality items never more than that. Being legendary, backstage passes, conjured items. Yeah. So, it works. Go us. So we've added conjured items. So at this point, we can decide if we want to continue, refactor, clean up, anything like that. Now, some people might be saying, hey, wait, we didn't confirm that everything works. And it's like, yeah, I know. Because a lot of times in the real world, we don't have time to get to everything and get everything tested. But you'll notice what I did do is I had the discipline to, hey, I was in here, I made a couple of changes, I added some extra tests, even to what I wasn't doing. So I made things a little bit better as I went. Now, if I say, hey, I still have a little bit of time for this story that I'm working on, this card, this request, this, whatever you call it, this task I'm working on, I have time to go and add in a couple of things. So it's at this point that I might as well add in a little bit. So we're committed. So even if I break things, I can always back up to this point and commit, where we know that our new feature's working and we think everything else is. So let's go ahead and see if we can't improve things a little bit. Now, if we want to do any major refactorings, then we're going to want to add more tests. So I don't want to do anything crazy. I just want to do small, simple things. So there are certain types of... when you're working with legacy code, some of the tips that I'll give you, and what's cool about this kata is it gives you a little bit of practice on this. Certain types of refactorings are safer than others. So extracting a method, extracting a class, usually pretty safe. Renames, usually pretty safe. You'll notice what I'm trying not to do is mess with much code. So we don't have a full testing suite around this yet. So I don't want to do things like restructuring the order of these operations or really doing much messing with stuff. You'll notice even the adding of the within the if, that subtraction by 1 on the quality that I did, still created a little bug for a second. So I knew it was going to do that, and that's why I mentioned we were going to do a test to fix it. But even that small change, as simple as it was, and just tacking it on there, could create an issue. There could be some other code somewhere that, say, looks at the quality and does something based on that. So that's why I point out the most dangerous refactoring, the most dangerous change we did was actually adding in the conjured, even though all we did was hack in another if. So whenever someone says, oh, I'm just adding this little thing, it's easy, it's not going to create a bug. Well, I mean, it could. So that's why we were so cautious on that. So I'm going to make a couple of changes here. The first thing I'm going to do is rename a variable. That is a fairly safe operation. Yes, I know there are some circumstances where, you could break things based on a rename. The next thing I want to do is I want to change from this for loop into a for each loop. So I can let my tools do it for me, or I can write it myself. I'm fairly certain the tool will be able to do it. So for each item, because all we were doing everywhere was just doing the items collection using an indexer, grabbing the first item based on an index of 0. So that's pretty safe. So I feel comfortable in that change. However, I'm still going to run my tests because I'm not crazy. Let's see what we get. So there we go. Everything still passes. Again, I could add more tests, but, some discipline is not diving down and testing every single little thing. A lot of what you want to do is just improving over time. So at least that's the policy I work on. You are welcome to work differently if you like. This is just what works well for me. Let's call this changing to for each loop. I'm not going to mention the rename of the capital I to the lowercase I. Someone's going to be like, but you did it! But no. Not going to mention that. Next thing I want to do is extract this as a constant. This is backstage pass item name. Okay, and this is the aged brie item name. Only appeared twice, I'm impressed. Okay, this is sulfurous item name. And conjured, this is an item prefix. Okay, because that wasn't a name, that was a prefix, that's why we did a starts with. So I got rid of all my magic strings, so those aren't repeated all over the place anymore, so I like that. That's a good change. Let's go ahead and run our tests again, and while that's running, I'm going to work on committing. Okay, they all passed. So we're going to go ahead and say extracted constant item names. Names and prefixes. Okay, so that is a better spot than where we were before. I'm happy with that. This code already, I mean, it's garbage. Don't give it me. Just look at how far over to the right we're indented over here. Like, it's not insulting. Like, we've all written bad code. Like, I don't want to bash anybody, and clearly this one was written intentionally poorly. But there are things we can do to improve it still. But before I go much further than this, I would want to get more tests on things. So, the question is whether we want to do that today or another time. So I guess the main thing that I wanted to do here was get this kind of extracted, get that added in, and not spend a bunch of time working on things we shouldn't. So yeah, I'm happy with where it is, actually. I would like to handle some of these alternate cases where we have some of these other types, backstage passes or the sulfurous items or something like that, but I'm pretty okay with what's there today. So I think we might call that good. I know we started a little bit late today. I was actually on C# Fritz's stream, talking to him a little bit about unit testing, naming, and things like that, with his open source projects that he's working on. So I think we're going to wrap here then. It's a little bit before 2 o'clock, which is our normal stop time. But I've got some things I have to do. Obviously, I've been on streams for, past 3.5 hours, a little more than that. So I hope you all have had fun. It was a pretty good Dev Chatter session. For anybody that stepped in late, this is Dev Chatter. My name is Brendan. I am a software developer. I like C# quite a bit. I'm always digging into the new fun stuff in C#, looking at what's coming down the pipe. I speak at conferences around the Ohio area, based in Northeast Ohio, if you're in that area. And so our next stream is scheduled for Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So hopefully we'll catch you there. And we'll be doing a little bit more coding. Next week, I am hoping that I can get us a pair to do a little bit of programming exercise with, and we'll have 2 people on the stream if I can get that all set up in time. There's a little bit of configuration I have to do to make all that work. And additionally, planning on getting a green screen set up behind me so I can disappear a little bit better and not take up quite so much space on our development screen here. And anyway, thank you very much. It was good having you here today, and take care of yourself. Happy coding.